Divorces in business are very complicated. This is something most people work their whole life to build their business, and it's something business owners are very proud of. The first thing you want to determine is the business community property or separate property? And the way that that is normally determined is by the inception of title rule. Was this business formed during the marriage or before the marriage? A business that was formed during the marriage is going most likely to be community property. And if it was formed before the marriage, it's almost assuredly going to be separate property. There's many more complexities involved in determining whether or not your business is a community property or separate property business, but that's going to be the main question that we're going to be asking. If we determine that your business is community property, that's going to be part of the total value of the community estate. Normally, though, you're not going to be able to divide your business like you would your 401k or your bank accounts. So one person is going to have to take the business in the divorce. What we're normally going to do is to determine the value of what the business is. We work with accountants and business valuators to try to ascertain what would be the fair market value of your business if you were to sell your business. Some businesses, it really is just you, the business owner. That's not really a business you can sell, and that's not really going to reflect very much in the division of the community property. Other businesses, though, where you have built up an operation where the business runs on its own, that is going to have its own value. And that value is going to be an asset that needs to be accounted for in the division of the community property. Now, we're not going to divide the business and just split the baby. You take one half and your spouse takes the other half. What we're more likely to do is to give the other spouse some other portion of community property, say maybe some more money from a retirement account or the house, to try to equalize that, but the business will be a factor in the division of the estate. When we're determining the value of the business, we're going to be looking at a couple of different things. It's going to be all of the assets that your business has. It's going to be the trucks, the equipment, computers, all of that has a dollar value to it. But then we're also trying to value the goodwill. Goodwill is a trickier thing to value. Goodwill is going to just be the way you operate and your business presence. If somebody was going to buy your business, aside from the assets, the goodwill is that intangible thing that they're trying to buy. Now, when we're looking in divorces in Texas, we're going to be trying to distinguish between two types of goodwill: business goodwill and professional goodwill. So doctors and lawyers, if they sold their business and started a new business across the street, they would probably have a lot of their clients would be loyal to them and would just follow them to their new business. That's considered professional goodwill. That belongs to the person, and that is not valued. But what is valued is the fact that if you were no longer with this business and somebody else took over this business, it would have a value. And that is what the court's looking to determine. So there are several factors involved in determining how we're going to value the business. Obviously, the most important factor is we're going to want to get the best number we can for you. Now, keep in mind, if you're wanting to keep the business, you'd like that number to be as low as possible, but it's also got to be credible for the court to believe it. If you're wanting the other spouse to take the business, or you're expecting that they're going to take the business in the divorce, you want to value it as high as you possibly can, because that's also going to affect the amount of the estate that you're going to get from other assets. One of the factors that we're going to be looking at is making sure that we're getting you a good valuation number. There's several business valuators that we work with who are trained in business valuating and who have experience with this and that have good relationships with the court. The courts find them credible, and those are normally the type of people we partner with. But another factor that we would consider is the cost involved in the business valuation. Business valuators are not cheap. They can range on the low end, $5,000 to $10,000 to $25,000 up on the high end. So sometimes what we will do, if the parties are working well together and they're just trying to ascertain, well, what is this value worth? The parties will agree, we don't need to have two business valuators. We're going to just agree to have one business valuator. The risk in doing that is that whatever that business valuator says the business is worth, that's what's going to be valued at. So we lose a little bit of control in the process, but it does save money in the long run. Almost in all divorces that involve a business, there's going to be one spouse that takes the business. Very rarely is a court going to force a business to be sold. Just because a business valuator assigned that value to the business, you'd still have to go find a buyer for a business. And as business owners know, there's not people who are beating down their doors wanting to buy their business. That's a difficult process. So what normally is going to make more sense is to give the spouse who doesn't take the business more of the community property. If you have a situation where there isn't much community property other than the business, and you don't want to have to sell the business, there are other solutions you can work out. Sometimes you can agree to like a payment plan to the other party. If you put the value, let's just say you had a business that was valued at $200,000 and that was the only asset in the community estate. In that situation, maybe the husband says, well, I'm going to take the business, but I agree I owe you $100,000. And then I'm going to pay you $2,000 a month with reasonable interest until that amount's paid off. In Texas, we do not have postnuptial agreements. We have what are called partition and exchange agreements. So if you did have a scenario where your spouse was agreeable to it and you wanted to protect your business, one thing you could do is to agree to do a partition and exchange agreement where the business would be considered to be separate property, and in exchange for that, the other spouse is getting X amount of dollars. That's one thing that can happen. Another thing I'll see common in operating agreements for LLCs and other types of businesses, they will have clauses in the agreements that says that even if this business is considered to be community property, the business reserves the right to buy out the divorcing partner's interest in the business. Give us a call at the Bayley Law Firm. We've helped dozens of business owners who have dealt with this situation before, and we'd be happy to help you.